What is up, guys? It's the Angry Dipper, and today I have a little bit more of a serious video to show you guys. And this is going to be pertaining to a social media post I made about 5 or 6 months ago that went viral very quickly and spread through the country very quickly. Um, so, Huge shout out to the Angry Dragon 90 for holding on to these screenshots. I'm not active on social media anymore, for those of you who haven't noticed. So it was hard for me to be able to recover this kind of information in these screenshots. But thank you to him for being able to hook me up with this. It's very important to him and to myself that this situation gets addressed. We're going to talk a little bit about what I know about what happened and what the real story is behind Philip Huntley. And I'm going to, credit some sources here, and I'm going to explain some of the interactions that I've had with Philip Huntley and basically his reputation around the city and what he evidently stands for when it comes to carrying himself. So I would never call anybody out for false valor unless I could say with absolute certainty that's what it is, and I am beyond certain, uh, based on what I've heard and what I know, that this is a case of false valor. So here is Mr. Huntley's Facebook page. He lives in Northeast Pennsylvania, which is about uh, 10 miles away from Erie, Pennsylvania, and you can see right there in his bio, it says U.S. Army 11 Bravo 3rd Infantry. If you're not familiar with what 11 Bravo means, 11 Bravo is, actually, he's claiming that he's in an active infantry contract. If you go to MEPS, which is like the military entrance processing station, everybody who joins the military has to go to MEPS. And you enlist as infantry, you'll actually be 11 X-ray, not 11 Bravo. And the reason for that is basically 11 X-ray means that you're in the DEP pool, which is, delayed entry program. You haven't gone to Fort Benning, you haven't earned the cord. 11 Bravo would imply that you have completed OSUT basic training at Fort Benning in Georgia, and that you are currently in an active infantry contract with the United States Army. 3rd Infantry would be the unit that he's claiming to have affiliation with. And you can clearly see on the profile, which he later removed this bio, but you can clearly see in this photograph that it states on his profile, U.S. Army 11 Bravo 3rd Infantry. I just want to bring attention to that because a lot of people never saw this bio. So let's take a look at the uniform that Mr. Huntley has posted photos of him in. I encountered Mr. Huntley 2.5 years ago, while scrolling through my news feed. There was a post from a younger female, him just straight out just harassing her, hounding her for no apparent reason, just being very vulgar and disrespectful. And in this interaction that he had between this female, he stated several times and referenced several times onto the United States Army, and claimed to be a member of the Army and claimed to be 11 Bravo. Unfortunately for him, this girl's father or family member was currently overseas in the Army, and let's just say they were not happy about his claims, and they were not happy at all about the things that he was saying. This is speculation, as I really have no proof of this aside from this, but his reputation around town, he's known for being he's known for harassing girls, very vulgar. I personally have seen him, I have seen screenshots posted from Philip, by other females where he refers to them as bitches and cunts and calling people fat and just very blatant disrespect. And for any of you guys who have served in the Army or know the Army values, which you are supposed to be subject to for a lifetime, that is just a direct violation of everything that you would have learned at Fort Benning, especially Fort Benning. And it's a disgrace, really, to make these claims wearing a uniform that my brothers have earned and I've worn, and like people have died in this uniform, and to make this claim and say these vulgar, horrible things to people while wearing this uniform is just one of the biggest slaps in the face. And that's why I wanted to put an end to this kid. That's why I made the Facebook post. But the turning point for me was I actually witnessed this individual go into a Chick-fil-A, which ironically is right by our recruiting station in Erie, Pennsylvania, in a sterile ACU uniform, which if you're not familiar, you're not military, you're watching this video, a sterile uniform means that you have no tapes and no rank. It's basically you could go to any surplus shop and you could buy an ACU, which is actually no longer used by the United States Army. It's now a uniform called the OCP, but around this time, it would have been the ACU, which is the exact uniform that he's wearing. Um, a sterile uniform means he has no patches and no name tapes anywhere on his uniform. Very similar to this picture that I have posted here. He went into Chick-fil-A and claimed military service and has been receiving free food from Chick-fil-A for quite a long time. And I called Chick-fil-A. They're aware of the situation. They confirmed that he was, in fact, there. And as I contacted our local police department, which is, if you're not familiar with the stolen valor law, the Obama administration actually made it legal to wear a uniform, a military uniform, even if it's not earned. So you could not go through basic training, never have served a day in your life, go to a surplus store, buy a military uniform, and you can wear this uniform and never spend a second of your life earning it, and it's completely legal. But it takes a turn and starts becoming criminal when you're getting financial benefits under the implication that you are a member of active military service in this country. So, knowing that a crime had been committed, I got in contact with our local state police department, and they informed me that there was nothing that they could do about it, and I would need to get him on video and submit the video to Pennsylvania State Police. By this time, my post had already gone viral. The odds of him going back into Chick-fil-A after he had been called out for doing this was very low. So I was unable to get any video, so I resorted to YouTube. So let's take a look at this uniform, and I'll point out just some things that I noticed right off the bat that raised some suspicion for me and for the other guys that encountered this individual. And let's play a game and see how many things are wrong with this particular uniform. First off, he claims that this uniform was worn while he was in the military. Or that he wore this uniform in the line of duty or whatever his completely outlandish claims were, which would it's not a direct statement that this is him overseas or anything, but it is an implication that he's using this to prove that he was in the military. He had commented on a couple posts and would always comment these pictures, which to me implies that he's making an implication that this is his uniform and this is what he wears when he's serving our country, supposedly. The first thing you're going to notice is that the uniform is completely sterile. The rank in the center chest, it is possible to actually be in active military service and not have a rank. Those guys are what we call fuzzies. Usually people in IET, which is initial entry training, people who they're either in their job school, which is known as AIT, they may not have a rank. It's pretty rare, as it's very easy to be promoted to PV2, in which case you would have a single little chevron, and that would be your rank. So center chest is not as much of a concern. However, he has no name tapes, and this, it's possible that maybe he took this photo in reception, but implying that this uniform has been worn overseas with 3rd Infantry is just completely outlandish. Again, no name tapes. That's the biggest thing that sticks out to me here. The whole PC thing, if he's indoors, he shouldn't be wearing the PC. It appears that maybe he's on a bus or something like that. And yes, it is possible to get your phone in reception, but it would not have been possible if he went to Fort Benning, Georgia, because when I went to basic training, the only place that did basic training that allowed you to have your cell phone through reception that I knew of was Fort Jackson. If he was 11 Bravo, he would have gone to Fort Benning, Georgia, and he would have never had his phone until Family Day, when he would have graduated basic training. So that's what leads me to believe that it's very, very, very unlikely that this photo was taken in reception. So either he bought this uniform and wore it around after he's out, after he had gone AWOL from basic training, or he took this uniform while he was a, like a med hold waiting to go home. Those are the only two things that I can possibly think of. But seeing as he went AWOL, that kind of narrows it down to he bought the uniform when he got out, and he took a photo in the civilian world wearing this uniform that's completely sterile. So let me know your opinion on this first part here. All right, let's take a look at photo number 2 here, and this is when, this is the photo that shows the majority of the discrepancies. Again, this is a photo that he has posted numerous times, implying that this is what he wears while he's in active duty service with 3rd Infantry in the United States Army. Again, you'll notice sterile uniform. At this point, given the dates, that how far apart these photos were posted, the first one was posted in February. This one, I believe, was posted in June. He would not be a fuzzy by now. He would have a rank unless he got an Article 15 several times. 9 times out of 10, people who come out of IET get the PV2 rank right off the bat. So notice no center chest rank. Secondly, again, no name tapes. At this point, he would have a name tape, 2 name tapes. You have your name tapes on your uniform anytime that you are in an ACU or an OCP uniform. Your name tapes and your flag are always there. So again, no name tapes, that's definitely out of place. Thirdly, Article 670-1 was amended about 2 or 3 years ago. We were briefed on this while I was in the DEP pool, that under Article 670-1, you were required to have squared sideburns. There's absolutely no way that his sideburns are squared because of the length of the side of his hair, and also the length of the hair on the side of his head, and also under Article 670-1, it requires to keep your hair neat, and your sideburns cannot touch your ears. So no hair can be touching your ears. Very clear in this photo that his hair is long enough for it to be touching his ears, which is a violation of Article 670-1. His sideburns could not possibly be squared away. Even if they were squared, the root would be in his head, and the hair would be covering the root, so you wouldn't even be able to tell that his sideburns were squared. So any NCO or any commissioned officer would certainly, notice that and make a statement about that. So there's no possible way that his sideburns are squared. Thirdly, you'll notice a wall behind him. It appears that he is probably sitting by a window, because he's either sitting by the window or sitting at a corner, because you can see above him the shadow is at an angle. So that would imply to me that he's either sitting at a corner just under a roof, or he's sitting by a window and he is saluting, which is a completely improper salute. And you are not supposed to salute indoors. It's one thing you learn right off the bat. You do not salute indoors. So those are the 3 most noticeable things about this photo that stood out to me almost immediately, which told me right off the bat that we're dealing with something that appears to be a blatant case of false valor. Alright, so slight correction in the last part of the video. I accidentally said thirdly, and there were 4 things that I pointed out in that part of it, so I apologize for that, but I think anybody with an ounce of common sense can conclude that I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Philip Huntley's stories are full of holes, Titanic-sized holes. So while I explain the last part of this story, enjoy some of the screenshots flipping through the back here. these are all lovely things that locals have to say about this quality gentleman. Um, and as I made this post and as a post grew and everything, people started commenting, saying that he had actually gone AWOL from Fort Benning, Georgia. Not sure how true this was. 3 hours later, my NCO gets a hold of me and actually confirms that this NCO is incredibly trustworthy with years and years of experience in the Army. He's also an Army recruiter that not only put myself in the Army, but he also put Mr. Huntley into the Army. So Philip didn't even graduate basic training at Fort Benning. He completely deserted his basic training unit, and he never even returned back, even after he had been reprimanded for doing this. Somehow he managed to get by without like a court martial or anything like that. Um, Probably because he was in IET, and like your first 180 days of military service, there's like a ton of leniency. So he scraped by and didn't get himself in any kind of trouble, federally. But nonetheless, he completely deserted his basic training, and he deserted the country, and then came back and made these claims that he was currently serving in 3rd Infantry when he really wasn't even cut out to make it through basic training. Um, as I mentioned before, when I initially contacted him like 2.5 years ago, the law enforcement was made aware of this, and they didn't bat an eyelash. And this was before I think the law was amended that he had to be making financial benefit or financial. He had to be getting financially compensated for making these claims. But still, they were notified about it 2.5 years ago when this first came up. Didn't do anything about it. And after this post was made, numbers of people were calling in about him, and their response was just absolutely appalling. The fact that my tax money pays for a state police force that won't even enforce a law when there's blatant physical evidence that he's been breaking numerous laws. That's very disappointing to me, especially considering that a lot of state police officers are prior service military, and that's something that this state and this country and people and citizens in this country need to be more aware of. Which is why I'm making this video. I can't condone any harassment of Mr. Huntley. That's not the purpose of this video. Should you decide to do that, I'm not condoning it. I'm not recommending it. I'm merely making this video just to raise awareness for this issue and to prove to people in this country that this really does happen, and that very seldom is anything done about it. And again, it's just very incredibly disappointing that somebody that I live around would go to these kind of extremes. In my military experience, and since I've been out, I probably encounter about 50 guys and girls a year who attempt to steal valor or are currently stealing valor. But none of them have been this persistent, and none of them have ever carried themselves this badly, and none of them have ever not, you know, paid attention to the warnings and tried to right their wrongs. And this has been something that's been going on for years. I just want to put an end to it. So if you're watching this video because you're local and you saw the post or whatever, that's all the facts of the case. If you're interested in finding this post, you can search me on Facebook, David Rankin, Rankin, and you can browse a post. It's public. All the comments are public and everything like that, and you can have a great time reading through some of the comments. And I mean, other people have even provided screenshots of some of the things that he said and done. So hopefully this video helped you guys understand the situation better and made people more aware of this problem in this country. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. I'm, have to say I'm very disappointed with the total outcome of this, but I'm taking it to social media and my YouTube to try to make this right. So please comment and subscribe, all that great stuff, and thanks for watching.